regular village board meeting, but tonight is a special meeting. We're delighted to be joined by so many community organizations. All of us are going to be applicants for community development block grants, and we're going to learn a lot about that tonight, both the program and how the process works, as well as proposals that the village, the town, and a number of our nonprofits in the community are going to be applying for in their application process. And then we're going to ask anybody who's here to give us some of your feedback. And at the June 20th meeting, I'll let the other entities speak for themselves and how they're going to handle it, but at the very least at the village, we're going to be, Debbie, we'll be having an official public hearing. Folks will be able to comment again then. So if you're at home watching this on video on June 20th, join us at the village board legislative session. We're going to have a public hearing near the beginning of that meeting sometime shortly after 7:30. You can comment on this. All right, so I'm going to turn this, we forgot to begin with the pledge and officially open the meeting. This meeting is now called to order. Let's begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, we're going to welcome up Village Manager Debbie McDonald. She's going to kick off our slideshow, and then we'll move into the actual proposals.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks everybody for coming. Yes, ma'am.
Can you just make sure everybody knows that they need to sign in with us and have a sign sheet?
Okay, that's really great, thank you. We do need to know who's at this meeting so that when we send in our applications for CDBG funding, it shows that we had an audience. So there is a sign-in sheet going around.
Okay.
And when it comes to you, if you would please sign it, and that'd be great. We'd really appreciate that. So we wanted to take this opportunity to talk about CDBG and what community development block grant.
It's hard to hear you.
Is it hard to hear me?
You have to hold the microphone uncomfortably.
Is this better? Oh, you're right. It is uncomfortably close. All right. Thank you for letting me know in the back. Yes. So tonight,
So it's upside down.
upside.
And then when it's like, you can do it anywhere.
Oh, I have to turn it on or something. I'll figure this out in a minute. There we go. So I wanted to just very quickly go over our agenda for today. And it is just an outline of what the Community Development Block Grant Program is all about. We're going to talk about national objectives, LMI, which is low to moderate income classification, what that means, the use of funds, how we can use it, what the eligible activities are that we have a choice in for all of our nonprofits and our governments. We will talk about Westchester County priorities. We are now a member of the Westchester County Consortium, and that gives us an opportunity to work collaboratively with the county to look at projects that we may need in our community, but as a part of their work to put it all together for HUD. We will talk very briefly about the application process. We'll talk a little bit about citizen participation. Today, we are really happy to invite some of our nonprofits to also present the projects that they are looking to advance through CDBG. So we'd like to welcome the town of Ossining, who's sitting over here. The Ossining Children's Center will be here to present. We have IFCA, who is here to present. We have someone from Sing Sing Prison Museum.
He just stepped out. He'll be right back.
Okay, great. And then we have projects from Open Door Medical Center. So all of these nonprofit agencies are very important to our community. And when we look at all of the projects together, we can look at how we can benefit all of the village and the town of Ossining together. So thank you for coming. When we're all done with the presentations, what we'll be doing then is a citizen open forum. So anyone here in the audience can ask a question. You can tell us what you like. You can tell us if the priority of some of the projects should be in a different order. You can tell us what we've missed or what you don't like. But we want to hear from all of you. So in the beginning, Community Development Block Grant is a federal funded program. And their primary goal, as it states up here, is to develop and strengthen viable urban communities by providing decent housing, suitable living environments, principally for low and moderate income persons. The national objectives for CDBG reflect a benefit to low and moderate income persons, the elimination or prevention of blight, or to meet an urgent need of recent origin. And that means something that's significant that's happened over the last 18 months. The Westchester County priorities are fair and affordable housing, number one. Rehab, new construction, housing services. Infrastructure improvements, energy conservation, stormwater management, pedestrian-friendly environment for infrastructure. And opportunities for youth, programs that will prevent and reduce gang involvement, teen pregnancies, services to a growing number of grand families, the services to young people with mental health issues, and expanding our daycare facilities. So when you hear the term low, moderate income, what does that really mean? And according to Westchester County, the area median income is $111,400 for a 4-person home. If you are above 81% of that value, or $90,000 or above, again, for a family of 4, you are not considered low or moderate income. A lot of times you'll hear the boards talking about an 80% AMI. 80% is anywhere from 51 to 80% of the median, again, for a family of 4. That would be a range of somewhere between $56,000 and $89,000. You would be considered very low income, individual or a household, if you are between 31 and 50% AMI, which is a range somewhere between $34,000 and $55,000. And you're extremely low income if your family of 4 makes under $33,000. Now, in yellow, you'll see the $111,400. That is in the family 4-person household. Those income limits change based on the number of family members that you have. So maybe you only have 2 people in your family or 3 people. So a percentage of that will be reduced based on that number. If your family size is larger than 4, then you are given the opportunity for your income to be higher, but it's still within the guidelines. So the way that looks is if you're, and you'll see the yellow here, which is a 4, which is 100%. If you're a family of 3, you get 90% of that value. Family of 2, 80. Or on the other end, if you're a family of 6, 116% of that value. So this is going to be posted to our website and will be in other locations. And so if you have any questions while you're looking this over at a later time and you're not really sure what this all means, please call us. We'd be happy to explain it to you. Using the funds, 51% of the amount of money that's given to each agency must benefit the LMI category. And an organization must spend 70% of all the funds that they receive on LMI activities. So there are 4 different classifications of activities. One is an area benefit. And what that means is that whatever activity is happening serves everybody that lives in that area. You have a limited clientele benefit, which is really just for specific people. It's not going to benefit everyone, but we've identified someone specific that needs help, or an agency that serves a certain population will get help. We have a housing benefit. So there are many different activities that we can do under housing, and frequently we do. Housing restoration, housing improvements. It does not fund new housing. And the last one, which I think we have not taken advantage of yet, but I'm sure we will, is job creation. Because as we rebuild our community and we make it a stronger place, we want to create jobs, and we can incentivize some of our businesses to hire low and moderate income families to work in their businesses. And I think that's a really great benefit we can take advantage of later. What kind of activities? So there's a very long list here that's outlined in the brochure, but I will tell you that the projects that you're going to see tonight are public facilities improvements on the left-hand side, some clearance activities, public services, housing rehabilitation, and on the right-hand side, code enforcement and historic preservation. But there is a large amount of different projects that we can consider as a community. These are activities that are not eligible for community development block grant funding, and that would include any buildings that are used for government purposes. It includes general government expenses, political activities. We cannot buy equipment with that, operation and maintenance expenses, new housing construction does not qualify, and income payments for individuals. So the application process that the county has established for us is that each agency who is a nonprofit or a government agency can apply for up to 4 applications, and your application cannot exceed $250,000, and it must be matched by 50% of whatever your total project cost would be and what you would be applying for. The county has asked us to put together our applications for funding over the next 3 years. So that is 2019, 20, and 21. The most important project is what is going to be that we're asking for in 2019. But we are asking for placeholders in 20 and 21 so that we have an opportunity to further refine the applications that we're interested in. But what the county is asking for is a collective group of applications so that they can begin to understand how they're going to disseminate all of the funds throughout the county. Citizen participation. It's very important for all of us that you have access to the information that we're presenting here, access to the information of the county program, and also have an opportunity to tell us what you think, which is why we're asking for your input at the end. We do have available technical assistance. If there's someone that represents a group of low and moderate income residents, and they maybe are not sure what's happening and they would like to have a spokesperson come and speak to us, we can help them with that. We also have assistance for non-English speaking families. There will be a public hearing which we'll announce at the end. But that public hearing will be in a location that's accessible to disabled persons. And our organized citizen participation centers will have activities around the community development advisory group. So the advisory group is one member from each community that's part of the consortium that will come together to make decisions on the funding applications. And for us, Catherine Quisby has been appointed for the village, and I believe it's Jerry Fiala has, no, Richard Quisby was appointed for the town. So great, and thank you for your service. That'll be a big job. So I'm going to go into our projects now, so I'll start since I'm already up here. And the first application, and actually the second application, is proposed to be additional sidewalks and code enforcement for us. So we spend about $150,000 a year on sidewalks. If we were able to get an additional $150,000, we could do $300,000 worth of sidewalks, which makes a much more significant activity. Knowing that we also want to help our families by talking with our landlords and having buildings remodeled and cleaned up, we are going to need some additional code enforcement assistance. So we're going to apply for 2 different applications for the same thing, one in 2019 and the other in 2020, in hopes of being able to do more work on our sidewalks and our curbs, and also to affect our code enforcement division. The next project is a project that you'll hear later on with the town. We are looking at improvements to the community center, and we're looking at safety improvements. So there are several things in our facility that need to be upgraded, and the facility is used by a large number of our community members. And with our new recreation superintendent, we are expecting to have more and more families and people coming, and our youth coming to our rec center. So we're looking at the lighting in the pool, totally needs to be redone. We are in need of resurfacing our pool, and we know that the roof is at the end of its useful life and will need to be replaced. So we are asking for $250,000 for an $875,000 project. But we think the money would be well spent to helping our community programs and our youth and senior programs, which Tom will talk about. Our last project, it says proposal 3, but this is for 2021. There is a walkway that goes from James Street to Hunter. And I went and took these pictures, and it's a very steep hill. This is heavily used by the residents in that area to get down to the train station. It's a lot easier walk for them, except that you can see the condition. It's very steep, it's broken, it's overgrown. And in the far right picture, you can see a person who was coming up the trail at the time I was taking the pictures. And I stopped and spoke with her, and she said she takes that trail every day, and it's really difficult at times. It's not all that safe. And the other part of that is in the winter, it's very slippery, and it's just very dangerous. So we were looking at a project that would actually clean that out and put steps and handicap ramps that would go all the way down, so that regardless of your ability to walk downstairs, or if you're handicapped and you can't do that, you'll be able to get down there safely. We would install lights and put in proper guardrails. You can see one of the guardrails there, which looks like a pipe. So it's a project that we would like to do, and we're asking $250,000 or a $500,000 project to make that connection. So I would like to invite Dana Levenberg, the supervisor for the town, to go over the town's project at this time.
Thank you so much. So come around here also. First, in an abundance of caution, I'd like to ask that we ask my board, who's also in the audience, that we reconvene our town meeting that we had opened earlier at 6:30 and then adjourned into executive session. So instead, let's reconvene the meeting so that we can have this public part of the meeting on the books. Do I have a motion to reconvene?
So moved.
Okay, fantastic. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you so much to the Village of Ossining for giving us the opportunity to share this meeting with you tonight. I don't have a clicker. I need the clicker, which I never use. Is it just the forward button? No, by the way. That part.
There
you go. Okay, so let's see. First up, I went backwards. Yep, I did. Okay. We have 4 applications also that we're looking to be considered over the next 3 years, and we have put them in order of priority. The first is kitchen renovations for the senior nutrition program. The second is a bus for the senior nutrition program. The third and fourth are improvements to Lewis Engel Park. The third one for performance space and comfort station relocation and improvements, and the fourth for beach and playground improvements. So The facility at the community center, which we use for our senior program, and the appliances have been there for at least 10 years and possibly twice that long. We're not 100% sure how long they've been there, except for the refrigerator, which was recently replaced. They are no longer compatible with how food is prepared. And for example, there's not enough space for the people who are working on food preparation, nor are there enough electrical outlets to make it efficient for the amount of preparation that they do daily. And that's both for those who visit the senior nutrition program as well as those who receive homebound meals. Those are prepared here in the kitchen. Also, the ceiling has started leaking again. We have repaired it multiple times, and we also believe we can make the space safer for everyone, seniors and employees alike. So to that end, we are looking to make improvements that would correspond with the village renovations to the community center, renovate the kitchen to better accommodate modern standards and the needs of the senior nutrition program, possibly relocate the kitchen to accommodate any new layout to the community center if it seems that it might make more sense to be moved upstairs because of the new configuration of the community center. And the total budget that it looks like we believe would be $240,000. Our request would be half of that with the 50% match, $120 each. Next. We're looking to get a new bus for our senior nutrition program. We're replacing a 2010 Ford bus that had recently received significant repairs because of damage that it sustained, but will need to be replaced. It had been in our capital plan for 2018 to spend $70,000. With new electric buses that are coming to the market and the incentives we believe will be available, we are hoping to apply to purchase one of these because the long-term costs are much lower, including maintenance, fuel, etc. Right now, 2 vehicles are required to take our seniors to the supermarket, and we're hoping that this larger 16-passenger vehicle would allow us to reduce the driver and the vehicle making that trip, which is also another efficiency. So, as you can see, some of the places that we take our seniors to, and the total cost of $140,000, we believe, with $70,000 for our request, a ZEB rebate from New York State, which we're allowed to use towards the match, and $65,000 for the town match. Next is Lewis Engel Park, which we all love so very much, but right now we're looking at exploring establishing a master plan for Lewis Engel Park to better utilize this ideal park setting. With all the new activity at the waterfront, between Harbor Square, Henry Bourdin Park, Ossining Boat and Canoe Club popularity, upgrades to our picnic area and landscape, upgrades to the Shadamunk docks, upgrades to our spray park surface, plans for a village dock extension, and the near future reality of Sing Sing Museum, we believe we need to further improve our park and public space and make it more conducive to those wanting to take advantage of the river and the environs. The Hudson River Valley Greenway offers funds for planning, and we intend on making an application in this August's round of grants to fund the Lewis Engel Park Master Plan. We expect that some of the work necessary to revitalize Engel will include improving and relocating the comfort station and stage, as well as improving the beach to offer better access to all of those who might not otherwise be able to get to a beach. Also, we would purchase new playground equipment, increase parking spaces to the beach area, and offer amenities such as kayak storage and rentals, and food vendors. As the CDBG program spans 3 years and we must put in applications as placeholders, even if we aren't quite shovel-ready, the last 2 applications the town will submit for improvements to Engel Park, that'll be the last 2 that we submit. As we explore the master plan further and think more holistically about Engel Park's potential, we'll have the opportunity in future years to refine these 2 applications to best fit the goals for the park as it relates to the community within the town's financial capabilities. So you can see a little bit of our comfort station here on the right, which we'd like to not have smack in the middle of the park. And you can see a little piece of the playground on the left towards the point. Again, we're looking to make improvements that would make I'll talk about that, I guess, in the next one, but we are looking to make improvements that would be more ADA compliant and offer a possible fitness area for adults while they're watching their kids. And I think that might be in the beach and playground improvements area, which is in the final application request, improvements to Engel Park to make it usable and enjoyable access to the Hudson River with new playground equipment, a new surface for the playground, as well as new equipment that's ADA accessible and includes outdoor fitness for adults. Other improvements include parking spaces, new kayak storage rental kiosks, and widened sidewalks to make it easier for us to access for our park staff. The budget total request $620,000 with CDBG request $250 and a town match of $370. And I think I missed in the last one the total cost of $558 for the moving and upgrade to the band shell that would also make it whether we could have bands there even in the rain. We don't have to desperately find space for our summer concert series to be someplace else if it does rain. And also, as I mentioned, moving the comfort station with a total cost proposed of $558,000 and a CDBG request of $250 with a town match of $380,000. And some of these things we have already put in our capital plan, so we do have money already set aside. That's it from me. Thank you very much. And on to the Austin Children's Center. I don't know who's coming up, but I'm going to guess it's Sean Kravari and Howard Melbourne. No, it's Howard Melbourne. Welcome, Howard. Oh, I did want to just also thank Richard Wishney, who is our CDAG representative, who is here this evening with us. Thanks so much for coming out, Richard. And sorry. Yes, that's the direction.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the village for allowing us to speak this evening. Okay.
Hold it closer, very close. Comfortably close. There you go. Yes.
Like this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Who are we? We're a fixture in the Ossining community. We are the Ossining Children's Center, and we have been here since 1895. We provide high-quality child care, serving children from infants through 6th grade. We are a partner of the Ossining Public Schools. We have 3 pre-K classes. And we are the only Quality Star rated children's center in Ossining. We have 4 stars, and that's rated by New York State. Now, what are we looking to do? We're looking to provide, we are currently providing full-day infant care. We have a pre-K program, as I said, before and after school program, summer enrichment program, and we are a mix. We are as economically and racially mixed as Ossining. And we are a not-for-profit, as I've said, and we provide high-quality child care that is affordable. Daycare in Westchester is extremely expensive, and we make sure all families can afford to pay for high-quality care. Now, what are we looking to do? We are planning on moving and building a better building. We are lucky in that we have been given a plot of land right in the middle of the village, 32 State Street. We've already removed the building that was there, and we have wonderful architects, the same architects who worked on Burns Film Center. And right now, we are raising funds for a brand new building. We have about half in place at this point. What is it going to look like? These are the ground plans for it. We have increased space for infants. Infant care is the area of greatest need. It is the most expensive, and we will be providing scholarship assistance for 3 classrooms filled with infants. Right now, we currently have 1 classroom. We have our pre-K and our 4-year-olds. and we will be housing our after-school program. The main reason that we are doing this is because we discovered that if we do not move, if we do not consolidate, if we do not attract a wider economic clientele, that we will not be able to exist in 3 to 5 years. So this new building enables us to continue, and we are going to be able to expand our facility. All of our programs, we currently have 3 buildings, all programs will be under one roof. We have bigger classrooms, which will give us a larger enrollment. Larger enrollment means lower cost per child, and we will be able to increasingly accommodate the pre-K community. And we believe that our facility is going to attract more families and also a wider range of families from all economic levels. What are the benefits to downtown Austin? First, we're going to be centrally located, and we're going to be increasing the economic activity in the area. We also are providing local employers with childcare. At a meeting that was held in the library where the county executive was talking about childcare and his proposed budget, there were numerous employers who were saying they could not expand because they could not find workers who had childcare. And the Children's Center will be increasing its population of children and therefore allowing more employers to find employees. As I said, we are a not-for-profit, and we keep our costs reasonable for all levels. And our parking will be your parking. We will make our parking space available to the community during evenings and weekend hours. Again, we're going to be high-quality childcare, and we are going to be attractive to all segments of the community. More parents, families, more businesses for Austin, and new jobs for Austin residents, and a great start in life for so many children. Strong children equal a strong community. Now, what are we applying for? Our application, we have 4 applications. The first is for a project that is estimated at $243,000. We are going to split the cost in half. Ossining will pay $121,500, and we're asking for the same amount from CDBG. It is for an HVAC equipment. This will help children who have asthma at the center and pollen allergies. Our second application is for an elevator and kitchen equipment. The elevator estimate is for $115,000. The kitchen equipment is for $100,000, and the total project estimate is for $215,000. The elevator will make the center accessible to all children who have special needs. Currently, if you know our existing site, we have staircases. This will enable everyone to be able to go to all of the levels in the center, and we will be able to take more children who have special needs. The third application is for bulletproof glass for our vestibule, and also to have bulletproof glass on all of the first level windows. We have a wonderful view. We are overlooking the Hudson, and we decided that we would create a center that is open, airy, light, and beautiful. But in the light of recent school shootings, we decided that bulletproofing those windows is a necessity. And we're looking for a project estimate of $275,000. Again, we are splitting that cost in half. So we're asking for $137,500 from Community Development Block Grant, and we will match that. The last application we have is for playground equipment and safety lighting. Right now, we feel that we have a wonderful playground, and it enables all the children to go out and play. At our new site, we want an even better playground, and we are looking at a facility that has a rock climbing wall and is able again to allow all children, even children with motor disabilities, to participate. And those are our applications. The last one is, again, $250,000. We're asking for $125,000 from Community Development Block Grant, and we're going to match. Again, we're looking at a 50-50 match for all the projects that we will be doing. Thank you.
Let's see who's up next. Other way. Karen DeTore.
Hi, everybody. I'm here with two hats today, my town council hat and also my IFCA executive director's hat. So for those of you who may not know about IFCA, IFCA is the Interfaith Council for Action that was established 50 years ago this year by community members, very much in the spirit of community development, to improve quality of life for low and moderate income people in our community. As the organization evolved, it really focused on housing, because like childcare, housing is out of reach for a lot of people in our community. And also like childcare, if we had more housing that was affordable, we'd have more people who could be employed by businesses in our community. So again, real sound economic reasons for this, but also we know very well in Ossining that affordable housing is a priority. Thankfully, we're a community that does prioritize this need, and this is one way that we can look to do some rehabilitation of our buildings. So right now in the village of Ossining, IFCA owns 14 properties and a total of 86 apartments. So we house probably about 160, 75 people in Ossining. What we usually do, typically, is take some old distressed buildings in our community and we rehabilitate them. And because they're old buildings, they're in constant need of rehabilitation. But getting funding like this through a grant is one of the things that really helps us to allow to keep our rents low, because the more money we get for capital improvements that are required in any building over the course of years, a new roof, new windows, if that money is granted to us, we then can really pass that savings along to our tenants in the form of lower rents. We also work in the same area that the Ossining Children's Center is moving down to. So IFCA is located on the corner of Spring and Broad Avenue, and our buildings are in the area, the 4 buildings that we're looking at for proposals tonight are in that area. So one of the things that we think is really great about this opportunity, it not only talks about what IFCA can do, but it talks about ways IFCA, Ossining Children's Center, the Village of Ossining, the Sing Sing Museum, can really do a lot of projects that can collectively really up the bar for quality of life for people in our community. So we're really happy to have this opportunity. And we all keep doing this. So our first project is rehabilitation at our headquarters site. This building holds our offices, and it holds, it's actually 4 separate street addresses and 7 apartments. This building is in need of a new roof, it's in need of new windows, it is also in need of new siding. Collectively, it's approximately $120,000 for that project, so we'll be requesting probably about $60,000. We're still working on fine-tuning the estimates, but that will be our first proposal. Again, this will give us a lot of ability to maintain rents more affordably. This building does not have state-mandated subsidies, or state subsidies rather. So our ability to keep construction costs low, keep operating costs low here really does impact our ability to rent it more affordably. Right around the corner is our building at 40 James. This used to be a teacher's dorm or apartment house for King's College. It's now home to 12 families, and this building is in need of new windows. The parking lot needs repaving, and the electrical system needs an upgrade. So we're thinking it's probably going to come in, again, around $125,000 to $150,000, and we'll be asking for half of that. These 2 buildings are, this is on Hunter Street and 2 James, so it's right behind actually sort of down the hill from the Ossining Children's Center site and Hudson Steps site, and one of the walkways that the village is looking to improve runs right behind there. These 2 buildings, we did major renovations a couple of years ago, but we were not able to do the roofs. So both buildings need new roofs, and there's a stone retaining wall that you can see that goes around Hunter and James Street that needs to be fortified and redone. So we'll be asking money for there. We think that's going to be probably around $80,000 to $100,000. So again, we'll be asking for half of that. And our 4th project is one of our smaller properties, but it's right on Broad Avenue. It's 3 families, and this building is in need of new windows, a new boiler, and insulation. So those things will provide energy savings as well as improve the look of the building and keep our operating costs down. So, thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Bob Elliott.
I too would like to thank Village of Ossining for the opportunity to present to you this evening. The Sing Sing Prison Museum, a nonprofit, would like to apply. Louder? Actually, I prefer talking this way. If we'd like to apply for a community development block grant in an amount to be determined for under the historic preservation properties of the grant for the restoration and preservation of the ground floor of the powerhouse, and we would then be using the ground floor, what we call the tower room, for programming, and that programming would bring visitors to Ossining, all in anticipation of the completion of the museum. A grant would also have the very big benefit of allowing us to leverage funding from other grants. So I think everybody here is familiar with the Sing Sing Prison Museum. So here you are, nice shot. You can see a little bit of the powerhouse on the right. And I think many of you may be familiar with our mission inspire, inform, and reflect on the history and punishment of rehabilitation in the American penal system through the lens of the Sing Sing Correctional Facility. Through its exhibitions, collections, and programs, the museum, whatever it was going to say. Our 4 goals include to have a positive impact on the local and regional economy, as well as to be the best prison in the country. And why does that keep moving like that? Here's a rendering of what the powerhouse would look like upon completion. And here's a overview where you can see where the powerhouse is. We'll be using that for programming in anticipation of the completion of the museum. As you may know, one of the most moving aspects of the whole thing is the old 1825 cell block. That will actually have the plans right now for a entry into that, a secured entry into that. And here is the key economic benefits you might see. So moving on. Thank you very much. Mike Lyez. Debbie.
Well, I'll pinch hit. It might not be as dramatic as if it was from him, but Open Door, as you know, is a very significant agency within our borders, within the village of Austining. I recently learned of the magnitude of their service, not only to our community, but to our region. So they just learned that this was going to be an opportunity and very quickly put some applications together. Okay, so I think I know by now how to do this. They're expanding free mental health services for youth and replacing aging infrastructure for energy conservation, and emergency preparedness is the focus of their grant applications. They have 15 health center sites in Westchester and Putnam. They have over 53,000, almost 54,000 patients a year, and over 20,000 of them are in Austining. Their total visits are 281,000, almost 282,000, of which over 100,000 are in Austining. About 9 out of 10 patients live at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. 43% are uninsured patients, and 40% are Medicaid CHIP patients. So, number 1, their first project would be to do a green and energy efficient upgrade to public site infrastructure, $105,500 total requested in CDBG funds at their 165 Main Street, Austining Open Door. It's open to the general public, but houses aging energy infrastructure pieces that are over 20 years old and at the useful life limit. They are looking for a new energy-saving HVAC system, which is their heating and ventilating system, including rooftop units, dunnage, curb, exhaust ventilation, and updated power requirements at $37,500. And upgrading all lighting to energy-saving LED at $18,000 request. Solar rooftop system at $50,000. Number 2, they would like to apply for site infrastructure, flood, and emergency preparedness, $87,500 requested at their 165 Main Street, in addition to an array of essential medical, dental, and behavioral mental health care and human services. Open Door houses medication and vaccines that need to be refrigerated. The proposed project to ensure that flood, natural disaster, and other emergencies that would cut external power to the site would not compromise the vaccine and medications on their site. The proposed project would accomplish this through the addition of an in-house power generator at $87,500. Their third project would be to expand access to mental health services for their youth. $47,500 total requested in CDBG funds. Again, at their 165 Main Street, the Open Door offers essential behavior and mental health care, which is often a first line of defense against mental health issues for our community, particularly among the low income. The proposed project will expand access to behavioral health care for youth through the support of evidence-based screening tools that will map to our existing electronic health records, eClinical Works. Youth will have free access to these screening tools administered by licensed clinicians with the results feeding directly in real time to the EHR, informing and supporting not just the behavioral health staff, but the pediatric teams and other relevant providers as well. The proposed project will cover such screening tools as the infant development inventory, child development review, ages and stages questionnaires for both social and emotional components, and pediatric symptom checklist and 47,500 requests. So I want to thank all of you for coming. Those are all of the projects. And at this time, we'd like to open it up to citizen discussion, citizen questions, comments. Like it, you don't like it. We're just looking for some citizen feedback if you so feel inclined to talk about any of these projects. Yes?
That's all right.
The microphone's right there.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Is there still time, Richard Bushby? Is there still time for other organizations, not-for-profits, to come forward with applications?
I do believe so. I'll look over at my team here. But you would have to have a presentation at either the town meeting or the village meeting in order to talk about your project so that there's participation and citizen engagement. The applications are due on the 29th of June, and so there's plenty of time to apply. Yes.
Okay, and how have we tried to notify the outside groups? Has there been press about it, invitations, direct, Chamber of Commerce? I mean, what have we done, or what can we do to maybe get some more applications and take advantage of this?
Sure. So I do believe that Westchester County has reached out extensively, but I can't tell you exactly how. I know that in our community, we reached out to people that had already applied in the past that we were aware of. So if there is an agency that you think would qualify for these and that you're aware of, then I would say please reach out to them and give them the information. There will be a link on our website to the application and all of the information so that they can quickly access that and decide whether they can do it or not.
Okay, and just one comment. For the last many decades, this community has really benefited from the CDBG program, and we're very fortunate to have it back now after, unfortunately, not being able to access those funds for a long time. So I think we're going to do real well, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed.
Great, thank you for your comments. I'll just bring this microphone back.
Thank you. These all sound like wonderful proposals, but my question is, what, if any, tax impact to people who own single, standalone homes will there be?
So I think that's a great question. We are asking for money to fund projects that we are all looking to do anyway. But we can do more with the help of this funding source. I don't believe that there's any impact on taxes. I'm looking at my village board.
It seems most of what we're talking about is capital projects that we would deem to be necessary, and so we would probably bond for the expenses regularly, but because if we can get half of it or a large chunk of it paid for by a CDBG grant, then that's money that we don't need to borrow, so it actually would save taxpayer dollars if we were able to get these grants.
These are federal funds that have been designated for this purpose in the past that we've not benefited from. So these are taxpayer dollars at the federal level that are now coming back to Westchester County. And again, we're very grateful to the county government for working with CDBG and working with the county to get the consortium back, the Urban County Consortium back. So that all was tied into the HUD housing monitor finding that our affordable housing was not in place, and then the county executive that was in place was basically in court with the Federal Housing Monitor to work out those problems, and then for whatever reason didn't, I think at some point, even when many of the problems were worked out, didn't want to accept the money. At least that's my understanding. Maybe I'm not getting it 100% right. Do you have more information?
The only other the only other piece of history that I'll chime in with is we've mentioned that we're part of this consortium, that the county has reorganized us for municipalities in Westchester County to be able to access this funding, because the funding is available to municipalities larger than ours, or a bunch of us if we work together with our applications, which is what you're seeing us doing. So we've joined this consortium so that we can have access to this funding. We had been part of, years ago, a 34 municipality consortium, and the HUD found that 31 out of the 34 had weren't in line with the intentions of HUD and how the funding was being distributed. So
They were in conflict with the fair and affordable housing laws.
So 31 of the municipalities were in conflict with the fair and affordable housing policy. Thank you, Karen. I will say, thankfully, that the Village of Ossining was one of the 3 that was not in conflict, but we were punished along with all the rest, and it's been a number of years since we've had access to this funding, as Supervisor Levenberg was referencing. It's federal dollars that the federal government has been distributing to most of the country, but not to Westchester. So it's time for us to start getting some of that money coming back to our community.
And I did want to also mention that the town projects are projects that are in the perimeter of the village because of the low, moderate income desirability of that, where that's more likely that people from low, moderate income will be able to benefit from those programs. The one, again, the senior program at the community center, as well as the improvements to Engel Park, which is in the village.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions? Yes?
Hi. Hi, my name is Dana White. I'm the Ossining Village historian and also on the board of the Simpson Prison Museum. I'd like to do a little more commentary on what the project down at the 1936 powerhouse would entail. You'll correct me if I'm wrong here, but what we're looking at is basically an early phase of what we hope to be a completed project. This is a chance to basically test out the concept. So we're talking about rehabilitating a section of the 1936 powerhouse that used to be used as correction officer locker rooms for meeting space, programming space, office space. We may reconfigure some of the existing community center museum exhibits down there. And also in the back, behind the garage where they fix the prison vans, there's a rather extraordinary space that is the actual powerhouse itself. It's in, pretty rugged shape. It's a big brick 1930s industrial building. But what this would do is something really entirely new for, I think, prison museums, of which there are quite a few in this country. And there are others that are at functioning, working museums, so we would not be the first in that regard. But what we want the space to do is be a place where we can begin to implement the programming that we feel will really set us apart. And that is by partnering with nonprofits like Hudson Link for higher education in prison. We can begin to do reentry programs with the guys that are coming out. 95% of the guys in there are going to leave. We would like to be part of a system that helps them succeed in the world, which they may have not been in for 30 years. So by doing this preliminary work on the powerhouse, it's not the whole project, it's the beginnings, it lets us see, is this going to work? Is this going to happen? Can we make a difference? It's not just about the history of criminal punishment in this country, though that is certainly part of it. We are morally obligated by being next to a working prison to be part of the solution, and we intend to be. And we intend to be part of the solution by using this space for programming for men that are coming out, making their way back out into the world, for panel discussions on the mass incarceration system, what's going on, what can we do. So it's really, I think, a way to start a really important part of our mission. Museums are changing. Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia is also going in this direction. Now, they're closed, and they've been closed for a long time. But we've got something new here in mind, and we're really hoping that we can get the assistance to make it happen. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes.
So at the beginning of your presentation, you spoke about how it was important that we definitely have the first project for 2019. My question is, if we gather from public feedback and say the public comes out in the public hearing, they say, hey, we feel like the money should go in this direction other than that one, will you have the ability to change the priority projects for the upcoming years?
The answer to that is yes. It's really about the public's desire as well. These are recommendations, things that we thought would make sense for us. But if, like the 4 projects that the village has, if there's a different priority, but if they like the projects, then we can change the priority. Absolutely. Comments from any other board members, town board members? Anyone else?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So our last slide really talks about there's no more than 4 applications per nonprofit or government, not to exceed $250,000 each. They are due to the county at 4 p.m. on Friday the 29th. We will receive preliminary notification on first round funding in January of 2019. We will be holding public hearings, both the town and the village. Ours will be on 7:30 at the Birdsall-Fagan Police Court on Wednesday the 20th, starting at 7:30. And the towns will be
at Town Village Hall at 16 Croton Avenue on Tuesday. Oh, sorry. It'll be here at the Ossining Public Library, the place of our town hall meeting. It'll be here at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, June 19th. Sorry about that. Okay, and there was one other thing that I thought I needed to mention, but I think that's. Oh, I did want to mention one other thing, which was just to Trustee Bazemore's question that we have had some preliminary meetings with Norma Drummond from the county, and she did give us some advice as to which applications would be best put forth for which years. So that's another perspective to take into account when we're putting forth the applications in not just priority order, but your order.
Thank you.
I guess the question I had is how interrelated are each of these requests? So let's say there are 4 groups or 5 groups, each has 4 requests. Is there some negotiation? Is it an all or nothing? Is one related? There are 2 for the same park area. For example, is it sort of an all or nothing response? Or do we have a sense of how they're all interrelated to one another?
Thank you. That's a great question as well. So we, a lot of us all talked about the different projects that we wanted ahead of time. For example, the town and the village want to apply for the funding for the community center at the same year. So that impact is significant. When we look at the housing rehabilitation that IFCA wants to do, that James Hunter, they have the houses at the bottom on Hunter, and that is the walkway that goes next to it. So there's a lot of interrelated projects. Unfortunately, we are all competing with each other. And so it's really about how we present to the county all of these projects and how they fit into our grand scheme as a community for how we want to improve our community. Yes?
Because we're all competing with each other, but we all work together, we did have a preliminary meeting with Norma Drummond of Westchester Planning Department, and we talked about our projects and how they do collectively work to have greater impact. So while we are competing for what we think are going to be competitive and somewhat limited funds, we do have an eye to making sure that we're certainly not cannibalizing anything, we're not reinventing the wheel, and that we're really doing things that complement each other's. So the hope is that when you look at the array of things that we've done and the narratives align so closely, you'll say, well, it would be a shame not to just to fund one element, we might as well do it all. So that's our strategy. We're laying pipe for that, and we hope that will be successful.
And the other thing is that Norma did suggest that we itemize within the context of each of these applications, pieces of it that, so that the county might say, okay, well, this, this piece of this application we will fund. So it may be that all of us collectively get pieces of our application funded versus the entire application.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Going once? All right, well again, I want to thank everyone for attending. Thank you for the town and Open Door and IFCA and I just want to thank you, the children's, I'm looking right at them, so, and Sing Sing for being here. Again, I think that we have such a great opportunity in our community, and to be able to work together on this type of a collective program for CDBG funds is something that's pretty spectacular. So there are all of the names and contact numbers. Hopefully they're all right. And I will turn this meeting back over to Mayor Kinder.
I will invite my colleague from the town government to see if she'd like to make a motion to adjourn her meeting, and she reconvened.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn into executive session, which we will have here unless we're asked to leave. Do I have a motion? In favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, the village needs to make a motion to go into executive session. We probably have enough time to stay here if we had 2 spaces we could be in. So do we have a motion to go into executive session for matters of related to collective bargaining? Moved by Codman, seconded by Levin. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week, June 20th at 7:30. We actually have 2 public hearings that week. We'll begin with the affordable housing policy update, continuation of that public hearing, followed by any comments on tonight's discussion. And that's at the Birdsall Bay and Leesburg facility on Spring Street. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Happy Father's Day. Yes, happy Father's Day. And also I hope to see many of you on Saturday downtown for Portugal Day. There's lots of great things happening downtown also. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.